The smell hit her before anything else. Not strong, not fresh, but still there. Wax. Old wax. Soaked into the wood, the walls, the air itself like it had never fully left. Elena stood just outside the shop, one hand resting lightly on the doorframe, her eyes scanning the faded lettering above the entrance. Candlemaker's shop. Barely readable now. The paint had peeled. The edges had worn down. But it was still there. Of course it is, she muttered. Because that's where she ended up. At 19. With nothing left. No job. No money. No one willing to take her in after the last place fell through. It hadn't been one big mistake. Just a series of small ones. Missed chances. Bad timing. One thing slipping into the next until there was nothing left to hold on to. And now, she had $1. Literally. One. So when she saw the listing, she thought it was fake. Property, former Candlemaker's shop. Condition, as is. Price, $1. No explanation. No details. Just, take it or leave it. She almost left it. But then she saw the picture. This place. Standing there like it hadn't decided whether it was done yet. And that was enough. Elena stepped inside. The door creaked behind her as it shut, the sound echoing softly through the space. Inside, dust, wood, and that lingering wax smell that refused to fade. The room stretched wider than expected. Long wooden tables ran down the center, scarred and stained from years of use. Metal vats sat atop them, thick with hardened wax residue that had built up layer by layer over time. Shelves lined the walls. Most empty, some not. Glass jars, old tools, fragments of something that used to work. Elena stepped forward slowly. Her boots echoed lightly against the wooden floor. It creaked, but held. First thing, still held. She ran her fingers along one of the tables. The wax surface was uneven. Rough, cold, but solid. Not crumbling, not falling apart. Just waiting. Okay, she said quietly. Not good, not bad. Just usable. She moved further in. One step at a time. Not everything. Just the next thing. That was the rule now. Not everything. Just what mattered. The front room. Workable. The tables. Stable. The shelves. Intact. That was enough. The back room. Smaller. Storage, maybe. More jars. More tools. A narrow doorway led further back. Living space. Basic, but usable. Elena stood there for a moment. Looking. Not at what it was. At what it could still do. This works, she said. And that was enough. That night, she stayed. The shop was cold, but it blocked the wind. The walls held the space. Contained it. She cleared a section behind one of the tables. Used her coat as a blanket. Her bag as a pillow. The silence was different here. Not empty. Not heavy. Just present. Morning came with light filtering through the dusty windows. Soft. Muted. Elena sat up slowly, her body stiff, her hands cold. She looked around again. Not at everything. Just the next problem. The door, she said. It didn't seal properly. The frame had shifted. She searched the shop. Found tools in a drawer near the back. Old, but usable. A hammer. Some nails. A rusted hinge. She worked slowly. Adjusted the frame. Reinforced the door. It wasn't perfect. But when she shut it, it held. That mattered. Next, the windows. She covered the worst ones. Used cloth to block the gaps. Not clean, but effective. By the end of the first week, the shop had changed. Not visually. Not in a way anyone else would notice. But in function. It held. And that meant she could stay. Food. Still a problem. Money. Gone. So she adapted. Small jobs in town. Anything that paid. Cleaning. Carrying. Fixing. She stretched everything. Used less. Made it last. Water came from a public pump nearby. Not convenient. But reliable. That became the routine. Morning, fix something. Midday, find work. Evening, figure out food. Repeat. Days turned into weeks. The shop started to feel different. Not like something she found. Like something she was shaping. She cleaned the tables. Scraped away old wax. Organized the shelves. Created sections. Sleeping. Storage. Work. It still looked worn. But it felt controlled. And control was everything. By the second month, she started noticing the details. Not the obvious ones. The small ones. The things that didn't quite match. Like the vats. They were too heavy. Too solid. Too fixed. She hadn't tried to move them before. Didn't need to. But now, she did. Elena stood beside the largest one. placed her hands against the edge. Pushed. It didn't move. At first. Then. A shift. Subtle. But real. She stepped back slightly. Looked at it again. The base. It wasn't fully attached to the floor. It sat on it. Like something had been placed there. Not built into it. Her breathing slowed. Not faster. Focused. Because now, this wasn't just a work table. This was something else. She grabbed a metal bar from the back room. Wedged it under the edge of the vat. Applied pressure. The wood creaked. The metal groaned. Then, the vat moved. Just enough. Elena froze. Because that wasn't supposed to happen. She pushed again. Harder this time. The vat slid further. Revealing a section of floor beneath it. Different. Smoother. Less worn. Her pulse steadied. Not racing. Sharpening. She crouched down. Ran her fingers along the edge. The wood felt intentional. Like it had been placed. Not part of the original floor. She pressed against it. It didn't move. At first. Then. A click. Soft. But clear. Elena pulled back slightly. Looked around. The shop stayed still. The air didn't change. Everything. Held. She reached forward again. Pulled. The panel lifted. Slow. Controlled. Revealing a hidden space beneath the floor. Dark. Still. Untouched. Elena leaned closer. Her focus sharp. Because whatever was hidden beneath those wax vats was never meant to be found. And now, it was. She reached in. Her fingers brushing against something solid. Something hidden. Something waiting. She pulled it up into the light. And everything changed. Elena didn't pull it out quickly. She eased it up from the darkness beneath the floor, careful not to scrape it against the edges of the opening. It was a box. Wooden. Reinforced at the corners with thin strips of metal, worn but not rusted through. It had weight. Not just physical. Intentional. She set it on the table beside the vat and stared at it for a moment. Because this didn't belong to the version of the story she thought she was in. She lifted the lid. Inside. Not wax. Not tools. Something else. Rows of small glass molds. Perfectly preserved. Different shapes. Different sizes. But that wasn't what held her attention. It was what sat beneath them. Wrapped. Protected. She reached in slowly. Uncovered it. Paper. Not loose. Bound. A ledger. Thick. Worn at the edges, but intact. Elena opened it. The pages were filled. Line after line. Precise handwriting. Not decorative. Functional. Dates. Orders. Amounts. But not just candles. Something else. Codes. Symbols. References that didn't match normal transactions. Her brow furrowed slightly. She flipped a few more pages. The pattern continued. Then, it shifted. The entries changed. Less about product. More about movement. Deliveries. Routes. Locations. Hidden. Organized. Deliberate. Elena sat down slowly. Because now, this wasn't just a shop. This was something that had operated under the surface. Quietly. Without attention. She reached back into the box. Found more. Small sealed containers. Not wax. Not scent. Something thicker. Darker. She didn't open them. Didn't need to. Because the ledger told her enough. This place hadn't just made candles. It had moved things. Through them. Hidden. Unnoticed. Elena closed the ledger carefully. Her mind steady. Not racing. Because panic didn't help. Understanding did. She placed everything back into the box. Not exactly how it was. But close enough. Then lowered it back into the hidden space. Closed the panel. Slid the vat back over it. Like it had never been opened. Then she sat down. And thought. Because now, everything had changed. But only if she handled it right. The next day, nothing changed on the outside. She followed her routine. Fixed the window frame. Scraped more wax from the tables. Took a small job in town. Because control mattered. More now than ever. But inside, her focus shifted. That night, she opened the panel again. Pulled the box out. This time, she studied it. Not just the ledger. The molds. The containers. Everything. Each piece had a purpose. A system. And systems could be rebuilt. She didn't copy everything. Didn't replicate what she didn't understand. She started small. The molds first. Simple candles. Basic. Clean. She made one. Then another. Testing. Not rushing. The result. Worked. Not perfect. But functional. She placed them on the shelf. Not for display. For use. Then, she added one more step. Carefully. From the ledger. A small variation. Subtle. Controlled. The result changed. Not visibly. but structurally. More stable. Longer burn. More consistent. She nodded once. Because that was usable. Days passed. Then weeks. Her routine adjusted. Morning, repair. Midday work. Evening, build. The shop changed. Not dramatically, but with intention. The shelves filled slowly. The tables cleared. The space started to feel like something again. Then, the first person came. Not looking for anything specific. Just passing through. Is this place open? The man asked. Elena looked up from behind the table. Yeah. He stepped inside. Looked around. At the shelves. The candles. You make these? Yes. He picked one up. Turned it slightly. How much? She gave a number. Low. Not risky. He nodded. Paid. Left. No reaction. No comment. But he came back. 2 days later. And brought someone else. That's how it started. Slow. Quiet. Steady. Word spread. The way it always did. Carefully. There's something open again. She's making things. They last longer. Elena didn't expand too fast. Didn't push it. She just made sure. Everything she made worked. And that made it grow. By the third month, the shop stood differently. Not new. Not restored. But alive. The shelves held product. The tables saw use. The door opened. Regularly. And Elena was no longer just staying there. She was building something. Then, one afternoon, a man walked in. Not like the others. Well-dressed. Clean. Observant. He didn't look around like he was curious. He looked around like he was checking. You're new, he said. Elena didn't answer immediately. Then, yes. He stepped closer, picked up one of the candles, turned it, examined the base, then set it down. You found it, he said. That landed. Quiet, but clear. Elena held his gaze. Found what? He smiled slightly. The part most people miss. Silence. He tapped the table lightly. This place used to run something different. I know, she said. His eyebrow lifted. Do you? Yes. A pause. Then, and you're rebuilding it. Not a question. A statement. Elena crossed her arms lightly. I'm using what works. He nodded. That's why it holds. Another pause. Then, I used to be part of it, he said. She didn't react. Just listened. We moved things through here, he added. Quietly. I figured. He studied her for a moment. Then, what do you want from it, he asked. Elena looked around. The shelves. The tables. The structure she had built. Control, she said. Not money. Not power. Control. He smiled slightly. Good answer. A pause. I'm not here to take it, he said. She didn't respond. I'm here to see if it's still working. She met his gaze. It is. Another pause. Then he nodded. I can see that. He stepped back, reached into his coat, pulled out a small card, set it on the table. If you ever need to expand, he said, you'll know where to look. Elena didn't pick it up immediately, just watched him. Then he turned, walked out. The door closed behind him. The quiet returned. But it wasn't the same quiet. It wasn't empty. It was full. Elena stood there for a moment longer, then reached for the card, picked it up, looked at it. No name, just a location. She set it down, because that wasn't for now. Now was what she had built. She moved back behind the table, adjusted the candles, checked the shelves. The shop looked the same, but it wasn't, because now, it wasn't just somewhere she ended up. It was something she built, something that held, something that worked. She glanced at the vat, still covering the panel, still hiding what she found, not as an escape, as a foundation, and whatever came next would be built the same way everything else had been, one step at a time, just the next thing. And this time, she wasn't starting from nothing,